In the midst of war, love survived. Humanity's quiet victory, the war had no clear beginning. It simply arrived, like a long night that refused to end. Stars burned where cities once stood, and space itself seemed tired of the sound of weapons. Human worlds were scattered and broken, pushed back by an alien force that moved with cold purpose. Fleets clashed in silence, light flashing and fading, leaving only drifting metal and lost bodies behind. In the middle of this chaos moved a small human medical ship. It was not a warship. It had no heavy guns or thick armor. Its hull was pale and marked with signs that once meant safety. Now those signs were ignored. The ship traveled slowly, following the paths of recent battles, collecting the wounded before they died alone in the dark. Inside the ship, the air smelled of clean metal and medicine. Beds filled every open space. Some held human soldiers with burned skin and broken limbs. Others held civilians pulled from damaged transports. There was little silence. Machines hummed. People breathed, cried, or lay still, staring at nothing. Aaron moved between the beds with steady steps. He was not a soldier. His clothes were plain, his hands stained with dried blood that never seemed to fully wash away. His face showed deep, tired lines, but his eyes stayed calm. He spoke softly to each patient, even when they could not answer. He checked wounds, adjusted machines, and made small choices that meant life or death. Outside, the ship shook as distant explosions rippled through space. A warning light flashed red, then went dark again. The pilot's voice echoed through the hall, strained but controlled, saying that enemy ships were nearby. No one panicked. Panic had burned out of them long ago. A young soldier grabbed Aaron's sleeve as he passed. The soldier's leg was gone, replaced by tight bandages and painkillers. His voice shook. "Are we going to die here?" Aaron stopped. He placed a hand on the soldier's arm and looked him in the eye. "Not today," he said. His voice was simple and sure. "Breathe. Stay awake." The soldier nodded, holding on to those words as if they were armor. The ship changed direction, engines pushing harder now. But it was too slow. Everyone knew it. The medical ship had stayed too long, helping one more group, refusing to leave anyone behind. That choice now had a price. A shadow fell over the ship, blocking the light of a nearby star. The sensors screamed warnings. An alien cruiser slid into view, massive and sharp-edged, its surface dark and smooth. Smaller craft moved around it like insects. The pilot did not try to run. "There was nowhere to go. Enemy ship has locked onto us," the pilot said. "Weapons are charging." Aaron closed his eyes for a brief moment. Then he opened them and continued working. He adjusted a breathing tube for a burned woman, then moved to the next bed. If this was the end, he would spend it doing what he had always done. A blast of energy struck the ship. The lights went out. People screamed as gravity failed and then returned in a violent rush. Metal groaned. A second blast tore open the side hull, ceiling doors slamming shut to stop the air from escaping. The ship drifted, powerless. Minutes passed. No more shots came. Instead, a strange silence filled the corridors. Then came the sound of cutting tools against metal. Alien boarding teams entered through the damaged hull. They were tall and armored, their movements sharp and precise. Their weapons glowed with contained energy. They moved quickly, spreading through the ship, checking wounds, dragging people out. When they reached the medical bay, they stopped. Beds filled the room. Blood stained the floor. Humans lay helpless, many unable to move. Machines beeped in uneven rhythms. The aliens hesitated. One of them stepped forward, scanning the room. His eyes moved over the wounded, the dying, the dead. His gaze settled on Iran, who stood between two beds, hands raised but empty. Aaron did not speak. He did not beg. He simply stood there, tired but unafraid. The alien gave a sharp order. The soldiers moved in, separating those who could walk from those who could not. Some humans were dragged away, shouting. Others were ignored, left behind like broken tools. When two aliens approached a bed holding a badly injured human child, Haran stepped forward. "No," he said. The word was quiet, but it cut through the room. The aliens turned their weapons toward him. Haran did not move away. He stood in front of the bed, arms spread slightly, not threatening, not weak. "She needs treatment," he said. "She will die if you take her." The aliens watched him closely. Their leader studied Aaron's face, his body language, his heartbeat shown on a small device. After a long moment, the leader lowered his weapon. Another order was given. The child was left untouched. Haran released a breath he did not know he was holding. He returned to the bed and adjusted the machine, whispering soft words to the unconscious child. Throughout the ship, similar moments happened. Aliens saw humans treating the wounded instead of fighting back. They saw humans giving water to enemy prisoners pulled from destroyed ships. They saw no traps, no hidden weapons. Confusion spread among them. When the sweep ended, Aaron was taken from the medical bay. His hands were bound, though gently compared to the others. He was led through the ship, past damage and blood, past bodies covered with sheets. Outside, space was endless and cold. He was transferred to the alien cruiser. The air felt heavier there, the walls darker. He was placed in a holding room, alone. The door closed without sound. Haran sat on the floor, leaning against the wall. Exhaustion washed over him like a wave. For the first time since the war began, he allowed himself to feel fear. Not for his own life, but for the people he had left behind. Hours passed, or maybe days. Time lost meaning. The door opened. An alien entered, smaller than the soldiers but carrying a device filled with light and symbols. Her posture was cautious. Her eyes studied Aaron with sharp curiosity rather than anger. She spoke in a language he did not understand. The device translated slow and imperfect. "You are a healer," it said.
"Yes," Aaron replied. "You could have resisted."
"You did not. There was no reason," he said.
"They needed help." The alien tilted her head slightly. "Even though they are your enemies?" Aaron thought for a moment. "They are hurt," he said. "That is all." Silence filled the room. The alien's eyes flickered with emotion he could not read. "You will be observed," she said. "Your actions are unusual." She turned to leave, then paused. "Most humans fight until death," she added. "You chose something else." When the door closed again, Aaron leaned back and stared at the ceiling. He did not know what would happen to him. He did not know if anyone he cared for was still alive, but somewhere deep inside he felt that something had changed. Not on the battlefield, but in the minds of those who watched him. And that, he sensed, might matter more than any weapon. Haran was no longer on his ship. He had been moved to a holding station on the alien cruiser, a place that felt cold and endless. The walls were smooth and dark, the air heavier than he remembered on the human medical ship. Every sound echoed strangely, and every shadow seemed to watch him. He had learned that this cruiser was not just a war machine. It was a place where humans were studied, where the enemy wanted to understand what made them fight and survive. He sat cross-legged on the floor, his hands resting lightly on his knees. His clothes smelled faintly of burned metal and antiseptic. He had not slept properly since the attack. Sleep was impossible when he could hear the echoes of people crying in distant rooms. He did not think about fear. He thought about those he could not save. That thought was heavier than any handcuff or chain. The alien who had spoken to him before returned. This time she brought a small device that displayed moving images of battlefields, hospitals, and human ships. She spoke slowly, watching him closely. A translator made her words audible, soft but precise. "We have recorded your actions. Humans are not all violent. Some heal. Some care even during war. Explain why." Aaron looked at her and shook his head slightly. "I do not understand what you want. I heal because it is what I do. I do not choose sides." "I help because someone is suffering." The alien studied him. Her face did not change, but her eyes seemed to flicker. Most humans fight for victory. They hate enemies. You do not. Why?
I do not fight, Aran said. It is not my choice.
War does not make me change. The alien left the room quietly, as if she had more questions than answers. Aaron could hear her footsteps fade down the long hall. The door closed with a soft hiss. He remained seated, listening to the faint hum of machinery. Outside, he could hear the distant sounds of other prisoners. Humans, some unconscious, some angry, some resigned. Their lives were paused between fear and hope, between violence and mercy. Days passed in that quiet rhythm. He was given small meals. He was allowed to wash, though always under watch. Occasionally, an alien guard would pause and watch him. They spoke among themselves in a language Aaron could not understand. He began to notice patterns in their behavior. They were curious. They were cautious. And they were learning. One morning, the door opened and a young alien entered. She was smaller than the guards, less armored, and her eyes held something different, something softer. Her name, as the translator told him, was Lyra. She carried no weapons, only a small datapad. She sat across from him, keeping a careful distance. "I want to know why you help," she said. "Even when your people fight us, even when your ship was destroyed." Aran studied her for a moment. "Because it is right, I cannot ignore pain. It does not matter who suffers. Humans, aliens. Pain is pain." Lyra tilted her head. She tapped the datapad. "We have prisoners who have fought humans, yet you healed them. Others would not forgive. Others would have killed."
I am not others, Aaron said. His voice was calm.
"I am me. That is enough." Something shifted in Lyra's expression. She looked down at her pad, then back up at him. "Most humans are different," she admitted.
I have studied records. You are
Unusual. Aran said nothing.
He did not need to explain more. Actions spoke louder than words. She seemed to understand, or at least recognize that. Over the next days, Lyra returned often. She asked questions. She recorded his answers. Sometimes she brought humans from other cells, wounded soldiers who had expected death but found care. Aran treated them quietly, carefully, offering water, bandages, and hope. Each small act puzzled the aliens more. Their reports grew longer, filled with notes about a healer who did not hate, who did not fight, who refused to see enemies as less than living beings. One evening, Aaron heard a noise outside the door. A group of alien soldiers argued in low voices. Lyra peeked in and whispered through the translator. "They do not agree on what to do with you. Some want to punish you. Some do not understand why you are kept alive." Aaron nodded slightly. "Then leave me alive." "It will make them question themselves." She hesitated, then moved closer. "I may help." Quietly. "You must trust me." Aran did not speak. Trust was a fragile thing in a war that had destroyed so much, but he understood her meaning. If she could help, it might save more than his life. It might save his mind, too. Over the next weeks, Lyra's presence became routine. She brought him data from the outside. Images of battlefields, reports of human fleets retreating, alien victories, human resilience. She asked him to comment, to explain why humans did not give up, why they helped one another even under fire. Aran answered simply, "Humans fought differently. Humans healed differently. Some fought to destroy. Some fought to protect. The ones who healed," he said, "were stronger than the ones who killed." Lyra recorded everything. "Bud," she began speaking in quiet tones to other aliens, sharing what she learned. Some listened. Some ignored. But her voice carried a new idea. Maybe humans were not what the war had taught them to expect. Perhaps humans had a quiet strength that could not be measured in weapons or fleets. One night the alarm blared suddenly. Aran and Lyra looked at each other, tense. Guards ran through the hallways. The station shook as a nearby skirmish erupted in space. The cruiser rocked violently, warning lights flashing. Aran moved instinctively to check on prisoners nearby, while Lyra held her pad tight, trying to keep calm. When the shaking stopped, Aaron found a small group of humans trapped under debris from the blast. One was a young boy, his leg pinned. Aaron worked quickly, using what little tools he could find. His hands were steady, though the danger pressed against him. Lyra watched, unsure if she should help. Finally she moved forward, lifting a beam just enough for him to free the boy. Aaron whispered thanks, though not at her, and returned to work. By the time the danger passed, word had spread through the station. Even the alien soldiers noticed the quiet determination of one human healer, working calmly under fire while others panicked. Aaron returned to his cell later, exhausted, but not defeated. Lyra waited outside, datapad glowing softly. "You could have died," she said quietly.
"And yet I did not," Aaron replied. "It is not bravery."
"It is what must be done." Lyra studied him. "Humans are difficult to understand. You heal even when surrounded by death. You do not kill, even when others would. You change things without trying." Aaron shrugged. "Change comes slowly, but it comes." Weeks passed and the holding station became a strange place. Aaron's actions inspired small whispers among prisoners. He healed. He spoke calmly. He shared water. He comforted those in pain. Even some alien soldiers began to watch him from afar, uncertain how to respond. They had been trained to see humans as enemies. Aaron made them question what it meant to be an enemy. Some felt discomfort. Others felt confusion. A few wondered if the war they fought made sense. Lyra continued her quiet work. She brought more humans to him when they were injured. She watched him, sometimes talking softly, asking about human life, about hope, about why humans did not give in. Aaron answered simply. Life was worth protecting. Love and care mattered, even in war. That was strength, he said, stronger than any weapon. Then came the moment that changed everything. The alien commanders called a meeting, a high council of strategy. Lyra told Aaron to stay quiet, to be careful, but she admitted she feared they might move against him.
Aaron nodded. He had been captured before.
He had survived. He could survive again, but he knew this time was different. His choices were not only about survival. They were about showing another way, even if others refused to see it. The council began. Reports filled the room. Screens showed human fleets, broken worlds, wounded soldiers. The commanders argued loud and sharp about strategy, punishment, conquest. And then came the report about Aaron. Lyra had prepared it carefully. She presented him not as a prisoner, not as a captive, but as an anomaly. A human who healed enemies. A human who inspired curiosity and doubt. The room fell silent. The commanders listened as she described the actions, the calm, the refusal to fight, the quiet mercy. The soldiers had taken note. Even their reports mentioned hesitation, confusion, and the strange strength of humans who refused hatred. A low murmur passed among the council. Some commanders frowned, dismissive. Others paused, uncertain. Lyra's translation allowed Aaron to hear some words, and he sensed the shift. The aliens had been trained to see humans as weak or cruel. Now some questioned everything they thought they knew. After the council meeting, Aaron returned to his small cell. Lyra waited. She did not speak at first. Finally, she said quietly, "Your actions, they are dangerous, not for you. For them, they do not know how to react."
Aaron nodded. "Then they will learn."
Slowly. "That is enough." She smiled faintly, and for the first time the weight of fear lessened. He did not know what would happen next. He did not know if his shipmates survived, if his people would continue fighting, if this quiet war within the aliens' minds would matter at all. But he understood one truth. Even in the darkness, even in the middle of a war that swallowed stars, compassion could survive. And sometimes it could change the course of events without firing a single shot. For Aaron, each day became the same quiet ritual. Heal, speak, comfort, survive. Outside, the stars burned with war. Inside, small lights flickered in machines, in eyes, and in hearts. Even those trained to kill could not fully ignore the lessons of mercy. And Lyra, once just a recorder of facts, began to see the truth. There were humans who did not surrender to violence. There were humans who fought with care. And through them, even the smallest spark of hope could survive, quietly, and perhaps one day win a war that seemed impossible to stop. Thomas had never thought of himself as a hero. He was an engineer, quiet and careful, who repaired machines and systems in a remote human colony far from the front lines of the war. The colony was small, built into a jagged mountain range on a planet scorched by past conflicts. Its walls were reinforced, but its people were fragile. Many had lost families, homes, and friends. The air was heavy with grief, and Tomas carried more than his own weight. He carried the hope of children who looked to him for guidance. He worked in the repair bays, bending over damaged circuits and burned engines. Sparks flew. Metal groaned. The machines that allowed the colony to survive depended on his hands. He moved slowly but efficiently, checking every system twice, 3 times. Mistakes could cost lives. Every life mattered. That principle guided him more than fear or anger. Outside, the sky was a dark copper, streaked with smoke from distant conflicts. Ships occasionally passed overhead, distant shapes in the red haze, reminding everyone that war had not forgotten them. The colony's defenders were few, armed with old weapons and hope. Tomas avoided politics and strategy. He only repaired, only fixed, only made sure that life could continue. Children watched him work. They asked questions about engines, about energy, about the stars. Tomas answered simply, smiling faintly even when he felt the exhaustion in his bones. To them, he was more than an engineer. He was a lifeline, a quiet constant in a world that had lost nearly everything. One evening, alarms blared through the colony. Tomas froze for a moment, then moved quickly. The sensors indicated incoming alien ships, faster and more numerous than anything the colony had seen. The small defense team scrambled, preparing turrets and shields. People ran through corridors, herding children to shelters. Tomas moved among them, guiding them calmly, even as fear spread like wildfire. His voice was steady, commanding only in the tone that said, "This is what we do now." The alien strike force landed without warning. Their ships descended silently, sleek and black, with weapons glinting in the fading light. They did not issue demands. They did not pause. They began targeting systems, striking at power generators and storage facilities. Explosions ripped through walls. Sparks filled the air. Smoke and dust choked the hallways. People screamed. Tomas did not fight. Not with weapons. He ran to the damaged turrets, the broken shields, the systems that kept the colony alive. He examined the alien machines that had crashed or malfunctioned and began dismantling parts, redirecting energy, and repairing defenses. Not to kill, but to protect. His knowledge of engineering became a shield as powerful as any gun. One group of children was trapped in a storage room. The roof had collapsed partially, and rubble blocked the exit. Tomas worked quickly, removing beams, supporting falling panels with temporary braces, and guiding the children to safety. He ignored the fire licking at the walls and the distant sound of alien troops moving in the corridors. His hands were scorched, his clothes torn, his skin scraped, but he did not stop. When he returned to the main hall, he found the aliens already inside, moving with precision, expecting human defenders to flee or fight. Thomas did not raise a weapon. Instead, he activated a series of shields that rerouted energy from damaged systems. Sparks erupted around the aliens, causing their weapons to misfire. Some tripped over debris. Some paused, confused by the humans who did not attack, who only repaired, who only survived. The aliens hesitated, scanning the hallways, trying to understand why their strikes were not bringing the expected chaos. Thomas moved quietly among them, adjusting panels, rerouting power, and repairing what the aliens had destroyed. The colonists, seeing him work, began to help without fear. They moved debris, lifted injured friends, and guided children. There was no fighting. There was only survival. The aliens observed but did not know how to respond. Their strategy had expected resistance, expected panic, expected surrender. Instead, they saw humans working together, calm and precise, even under attack. One alien commander stepped forward, raising a weapon to demand compliance. Thomas did not flinch. Instead, he looked at the alien and spoke clearly in the universal translator's voice. "Leave this place. We will not stop you, but we will not die fighting unless necessary. We protect life."
"That is what we do." The alien hesitated.
It did not expect words, reasoning, or calm in the middle of battle. Its sensors picked up the determination in Tomas's body, the movements of colonists who would follow him without question, the network of shields and repaired machines that no attack could easily destroy. It measured strength not by weapons but by resolve. Then it made a choice. The alien commander lowered its weapon. Other troops froze, uncertain. Finally, the strike force retreated, leaving the colony intact. The machines hummed. Some damaged, some repaired, but the colony lived. The colonists exhaled, hugging children, crying quietly, but not for fear. They cried because life had survived against overwhelming odds. Tomas sat on the floor afterward, exhausted, sweat and soot covering him. The children brought water, small comforts, and he smiled faintly, nodding. "It is over," he said softly, though he knew the war had not ended. It had simply passed by the small outpost. As night fell, Tomas climbed to the top of a ridge overlooking the colony. Smoke rose from distant fires, but the lights of the colony glowed stubbornly against the dark horizon. He watched the stars, thinking of the human ship lost in battle, of Aaron taken by aliens, of countless others across the galaxy. They were all fighting in different ways, all surviving differently. Some with weapons, some with healing, some with quiet engineering and calm resolve. He thought of the aliens who had hesitated. They had expected fear, but instead they found patience. They had expected chaos, but instead they found careful planning and protection. They had expected surrender, but instead they found humans refusing to give up, humans who could save without killing, humans who could inspire doubt without a word of war. A child climbed beside him. "Why didn't they fight?" she asked. Tomas smiled softly. "Sometimes fighting is not the strongest choice. Sometimes saving and protecting is stronger. You remember that, okay?" She nodded, eyes wide, understanding only a little but feeling the weight of the truth. Humans could survive without violence. Humans could win quietly. In the following days, Tomas repaired what had been broken, helped the colonists rebuild their homes, and taught the older children basic engineering. They worked together, each small victory building a network of strength that no alien could fully measure. Reports of the strange battle spread across other colonies. Some commanders whispered about humans who did not fight yet survived. Some strategists worried that the war might be changing in ways they did not understand. And Tomas, quiet and unassuming, continued his work. He did not seek fame. He did not seek recognition. He only sought to keep the colony alive, to protect life, to show that humanity could endure even when the odds were against them. His actions were small, almost invisible in the grand scale of war, but they mattered more than any gun or fleet. Each repaired machine, each protected child, each calm step against fear was a quiet victory. One evening he received a message from a nearby outpost. The words were simple, almost casual, but carried meaning. "Your colony survived. Your methods have been noticed." Tomas read it slowly, letting the weight sink in. Someone somewhere was paying attention. Perhaps not as a hero, but as a human, a being who chose life over destruction. As the night deepened, Tomas returned to the repair bay, continuing his work. The hum of machinery, the faint laughter of children learning, the soft conversations of colonists, all reminded him that war had not destroyed everything. Humanity could survive. Humanity could heal. Humanity could endure quietly, without applause, without triumph, without glory. And in that quiet endurance, they found strength greater than any weapon. Above the colony, alien scouts moved through the sky, observing the strange humans who did not fight, yet survived. They reported back to their commanders, puzzled and uneasy. "They do not follow our patterns," one said. "They protect. They do not attack. They are different."
Their leaders frowned, unable to respond, unable to measure strength by the tools they knew.
The humans had done something they did not understand. They had survived with mercy, patience, and quiet determination. Tomas did not know that elsewhere, Iran continued to inspire the same doubt among other aliens. He did not know that his work would ripple across human colonies and enemy fleets alike. He only knew that the colony was safe tonight, that the children slept without fear, and that his actions mattered in a way far beyond what anyone could see. And in that knowledge, Tomas found peace. The war was not over. The enemy still moved, still struck, still planned. But humans could fight in their own way. Humans could endure. And sometimes, quiet survival was the greatest victory of all. The alien command world was cold and bright at the same time. Its surface was covered in smooth towers and wide platforms that reflected the light of a white sun. Ships moved in perfect lines above the city, landing and leaving without delay. Everything here was controlled, measured, and ordered. This was the heart of the war, where decisions were made that ended worlds. Inside the highest tower sat Varen, a senior strategist. He had spent most of his life studying conflict. To him, war was not emotional. It was numbers, movement, pressure, and time.
He believed every enemy could be broken if pushed hard enough. Humanity had been no different, or so he thought.
Before him floated several screens filled with reports. Losses, victories, captured territory. And something new. Hesitation, confusion, delays. Varen narrowed his eyes. These words did not belong in a clean war report. He tapped a control and opened the next file. It showed images from a human colony. No heavy weapons, no strong defenses. Yet the alien strike force had pulled back. The report stated that systems failed, shields were restored during the attack, and the humans did not engage directly. They protected their civilians and repaired damage even while under fire.
"This makes no sense," Varen muttered.
Another file opened. This one showed a captured human healer aboard an alien cruiser. The human had treated wounded aliens. The report noted that several soldiers hesitated to act against him. One officer even allowed a human child to live against orders. Varen felt a tight pressure in his chest. War was supposed to be simple. Fear, force, surrender. Humanity was not following the pattern. He summoned Aina, an alien historian assigned to record the long memory of their people. She arrived quietly, carrying old data cores and recent reports. Her eyes were calm, thoughtful, and very tired. "You asked to see me," she said.
"Yes,"
Varen replied.
"Explain this." He gestured to the screens.
Aina studied them carefully. She did not speak at first. "These are not errors," she finally said. "They are changes."
"Changes caused by what?"
Varen asked sharply. "Weakness?" Aina shook her head. "No. Caused by behavior we did not predict. Humans are not acting only as fighters. Some heal, some protect. Some refuse to break even when breaking would be easier." Varen folded his hands. "Every species breaks eventually. So did the others," Ina said quietly.
Varen looked at her.
The others? Ina activated a core. Images filled the air.
Alien races from long ago. Cities burning. Fleets destroyed. Species erased from existence.
"They all chose one path," Aina said. "When war came, they chose hate.
They chose destruction. Even when they were losing, they tried to burn everything. That is why they are gone."
"And humans," Varen said slowly, "are different."
"Yes," Aina replied. "They are still violent. They still fight. But some of them choose restraint even when it costs them. That choice is dangerous to us." Varen leaned back. "Dangerous how?"
"It spreads doubt," Aina said.
"Our soldiers expect fear. When they see calm, they hesitate. When they see mercy, they question orders. War depends on certainty. Humans are removing it.
Baron felt a strange discomfort.
Doubt was a weakness. And yet he could not ignore the data. Supply lines delayed because units waited. Commanders asking for clarification instead of acting. Scouts reporting confusion instead of victory. He dismissed Ina with a nod. I need time. She hesitated at the door. Time is what humans use best, she said. Then she left. Baron stood alone, staring at the white sun outside the tower. He remembered his early days, learning how to end conflicts quickly. He believed that total force saved lives in the long run. Now, he was not so sure. A message arrived from the High Council. They demanded a new offensive plan. Faster, stronger, more decisive. Humanity was to be crushed before their strange behavior spread further. Varen began to draft the orders. His hands moved out of habit. Targets, timelines, weapon deployment. Then he stopped. He remembered the image of the healer standing unarmed before armed soldiers. He remembered the report of a colony surviving because humans chose to repair instead of attack. He remembered the hesitation in his own fleet. If he pushed harder, would that end the war, or would it deepen the problem? That night, Varen walked through the lower levels of the city. He watched young soldiers train, repeating drills without emotion. He watched civilians move in clean paths, trusting the command structure to protect them. Everything was built on obedience. What would happen if obedience cracked? He returned to his chamber and altered the orders. Just slightly. A delay here. A reassessment there. He labeled it as strategic caution. The next day the High Council noticed. Why the delay? One asked. Varen kept his voice steady. The enemy is changing. Immediate force may cause unpredictable resistance. Observation will give us advantage. Some agreed, some did not, but no one could deny the recent failures. Days passed. More reports arrived, more hesitation. More strange encounters where humans helped instead of fought. One report stood out. An alien scout had aided a wounded human pilot and allowed her to escape. The scout did not defect. He returned and filed the report honestly. He did not apologize. Varen read the report twice. The war was no longer only on battlefields. It was in minds. He summoned Ina again. If we continue, he asked, what happens? Anna answered slowly. If we continue as before, our forces will weaken from inside. Not by loss of ships, but by loss of certainty. Soldiers who question are no longer tools. They become thinkers.
And if we stop? Varen asked.
Then we do not lose, she said. But we do not win the way we expected. Baron looked at the city again. Victory had always meant control. Now control itself felt fragile. He made a decision that would never be recorded as brave. He ordered a quiet withdrawal from several contested systems. No announcement, no admission, just absence. To the council, he explained it as resource management. To himself, he called it something else. The humans did not celebrate. There were no victory signals, no demands. They simply continued living, rebuilding, healing, protecting. That disturbed Varen more than any attack. Weeks later, he reviewed the data again.
Alien casualties were down.
Human resistance had softened in some areas, not from surrender, but from lack of contact. The war was slowing. Enna stood beside him. They are not chasing us, she said. They do not need to, Varen replied. They are changing us. For the first time in his life, Varen felt fear not of defeat, but of transformation. Humanity was not winning battles. They were surviving in ways that made conquest meaningless. He looked at the white sun and understood something painful and clear. This war could not be won by destroying humans, because humans were not trying to destroy back. And that, he realized, might be the quiet end of everything he had believed about war. The battle above the broken moon ended in fire and silence. Ships burned, spun, and vanished into the dark. Among the falling debris was a small human fighter, its engines failing, its control lights blinking weakly. Inside the cockpit sat Mira, a human pilot who had flown too mmany missions and survived too many close calls. Her hand shook as she tried to stabilize the craft, but the damage was too deep. The fighter fell through the thin atmosphere of a nearby barren world and crashed hard into a field of black stone. The impact threw Mira forward. Pain burst through her chest and leg. The cockpit cracked open, air rushing out in a sharp hiss. She fought to stay awake, forcing herself to breathe slowly. Smoke filled the cabin. She knew she could not stay inside. With great effort, she released the harness and dragged herself out of the wreckage. The world around her was silent. The sky was dark purple, filled with distant stars. The ground was uneven and cold. Mira crawled away from the burning fighter and collapsed behind a large rock. Her leg was badly injured, blood soaking through her suit. She activated a weak distress signal, knowing it might also attract the enemy. She closed her eyes for a moment, listening. The wind whispered across the stone. Somewhere far away, engines echoed. She did not know if rescue or death would arrive first. Not far from the crash site, an alien scout named Ro moved carefully across the rocks. He had been sent to observe the battlefield, not to fight. His orders were simple. Watch, report. Avoid contact unless necessary. He saw the burning wreck from a distance and slowed his steps. A lone human pilot, easy to eliminate. That was the rule. Ro raised his weapon and aimed toward the smoke. Then he paused. He remembered the reports. Humans who healed. Humans who protected. Humans who did not always kill when they could. He remembered a story passed quietly among scouts about a human healer who stood unarmed and changed the minds of soldiers. Ro had dismissed it at first. Stories spread fear as easily as hope. But now, watching the lone human struggle to crawl, Ro felt something unfamiliar. Not pity exactly. Something closer to curiosity mixed with unease. He moved closer, staying hidden. Mira heard a sound and tried to raise her weapon, but her arm would not respond. She forced her eyes open and saw a shape moving through the shadows. Alien armor. She froze, fear gripping her chest tighter than the pain. Ro stepped into view. They stared at each other. For a long moment, neither moved. Mira expected death. She expected a quick shot, a clean end. Instead, the alien lowered his weapon slightly, his head tilted, studying her injury, her breathing, her weak attempt to stay conscious. "You are wounded," his translator said, voice flat and mechanical. Mira laughed weakly. "That obvious," she said, then coughed. Ro scanned her leg. The injury was severe. She would not survive long without help. He thought of his orders. He thought of the war. He thought of the hesitation spreading through the fleet. He made a decision he would never be trained for. "Do not move," Ro said. Mira tensed. "Just do it," she whispered. "I'm not begging." Ro shook his head slowly. "I am not here to kill you." She stared at him, confused. "Then why are you here?" Ro knelt carefully, keeping his distance. He removed a small medical device from his pack. "If you bleed like this, you will die. This outcome has no value."
Mira watched him with disbelief.
An alien scout, kneeling beside her, preparing medical aid. Her training told her this was impossible. Her instincts screamed danger, but her body was failing, and she had no strength left to resist. "Why?" she asked softly. Ro hesitated. "I do not know," he admitted. "Perhaps because your kind is shown. Restraint." He applied the device to her leg. It sealed the wound enough to stop the bleeding. Mira gasped as the pain eased slightly. She looked at him, searching for trickery, for cruelty. She found none. "Thank you," she said quietly. Ro stood. "You must leave this place. Others will come. They will not hesitate." Mira nodded weakly. "I can't walk." Ro scanned the horizon. A patrol signal flickered on his display. Time was short. He made another choice. He helped her up, supporting her weight despite the risk. They moved slowly toward a narrow canyon where her signal would be harder to detect. Every step burned through Mira's strength. Ro's movements were tense, alert, ready to flee or fight if needed. They reached the canyon and stopped. Ro activated a small beacon and adjusted its frequency.
"Your people will find this," he said. "It is masked."
For now. Mira leaned against the rock, breathing hard. "You could have left me," she said.
"You could have killed me." Ra looked away. "I know. Why didn't you?" He was silent for a long time. Finally he said, "Because ending you would not end the war."
"But helping you might end something inside me." Mira smiled faintly. "That's how it starts," she said. That quiet doubt. Ro stiffened.
"You speak as if you know." "I've seen it," she replied. "In my own people."
Enemies. War breaks when people start asking why.
A distant sound echoed through the canyon.
Human engines. Mira closed her eyes in relief. Ro stepped back.
"Do not tell them about me," he said.
Mira opened her eyes. "Why?" "Because they will look for me," he said. "And because this was not done for reward." She nodded.
"I won't forget," she said. "But I won't hunt you."
Ro turned and vanished into the rocks just as a human rescue team arrived. They found Mira barely conscious but alive. As they carried her away, she looked back once, hoping to see the alien scout again. He was gone. Ro watched from a distance as the human ship lifted off. His heart raced. He had violated protocol. He had endangered himself. Yet he felt something new. Not pride, not fear, something like relief. He returned to his unit later and filed a simple report. Human pilot injured. No engagement, no threat. His commander frowned but did not press further. Too many such reports had arrived lately. The pattern was growing. Elsewhere, Mira recovered aboard a human medical vessel. As she lay in the recovery bay, she told no one about the alien who saved her. But she spoke differently afterward. When others spoke of revenge, she spoke of survival. When others spoke of destruction, she spoke of restraint. Her story spread quietly, without names, without glory. A pilot survived. An enemy hesitated. Something changed. Ro continued his duties, but he was no longer the same. Each encounter felt heavier. Each order felt less absolute. He noticed other scouts behaving strangely. Delays, missed shots, reports softened by careful language. The war was still burning across space, but it burned unevenly now. In some places it flared, in others it faded. Not because of treaties or commands, but because individuals chose differently. On distant worlds, humans rebuilt instead of chased retreating fleets. On alien ships, commanders paused longer before giving attack orders. The space between decisions grew wider. Ro stood one night on a high ridge, watching stars drift slowly across the sky. He thought of the human pilot's eyes, not filled with hate, but with tired understanding. He thought of the healer he had never met, but whose shadow reached even here. He thought of a future where this war ended, not with victory cries, but with silence. Mira, far away, looked out a viewport at the same stars. Her leg would heal. Her ship would be replaced. The war might continue. But she knew now that the enemy was not a single face or fleet. It was the belief that killing was the only answer. And that belief was breaking, quietly, without anyone declaring it, without anyone noticing exactly when it happened.
Only that one day fewer shots were fired,
and more lives were spared. The war had slowed. Across many systems, human colonies rebuilt, repaired, and healed. The battlefields were emptying, not from surrender, not from conquest, but from exhaustion and quiet doubt. Alien fleets moved cautiously, hesitant to strike humans who seemed unafraid, who did not fight like others they had defeated before. The war had lost its rhythm. Commanders did not know what to order, soldiers did not know when to fire, and humans continued living, silently, persistently, and without grand gestures. On a small planet with blue oceans and green mountains, a human named Kira worked in a village far from the remnants of war. She tended to fields damaged by stray weapons fire, helping farmers repair irrigation systems. Children played nearby, laughing, though their parents still whispered warnings about ships in the sky. Kira's hands were rough with work, her skin sunburned, her face tired but calm. She looked out over the fields one morning and saw something unusual. An alien scout ship drifted silently, not attacking, not scanning aggressively, simply hovering as if uncertain what to do. Kira did not panic. She continued her work. The humans around her paused, watching, waiting for the ship to fire.
It did not. It hovered until the sun reached its peak, then quietly left.
That small gesture, no weapon fired, no warning sent, was repeated across the galaxy. Reports came in of alien forces holding their fire, of scouts hesitating before engagement, of officers delaying orders. Commanders did not understand why. Some suspected trickery. Others suspected fear. A few began whispering about humans who fought differently, humans who healed and endured without violence. Meanwhile, Aran remained aboard the alien cruiser, under watch but free from immediate threat. Lyra continued her quiet role as observer and translator. She had gained influence among some of the alien officers who had begun to question the nature of war. Aaron continued his work, treating the wounded, calming prisoners, and showing that humans could endure without destruction. His calm had spread slowly and quietly into the hearts of those around him. Soldiers who once followed orders blindly now hesitated. Those who once believed humans were weak now found themselves unsure. On another world, Tomas continued repairing colony systems, teaching young humans to maintain life and survival. Each repaired machine, each child trained, each building restored became part of a web that humans had spun across the stars. Their quiet resilience was unnoticed by many, but its effect was undeniable. Aliens no longer moved with certainty. Human colonies survived attacks not through weapons but through endurance and calm planning. Mira, fully recovered from her crash, continued to fly missions, but differently. She avoided unnecessary combat, focusing instead on rescue and support operations. Each time she returned, stories of her survival and the mysterious alien who had spared her spread quietly among human pilots. The stories were simple. Humans survived because they did not give up, because they helped each other, because they refused to hate blindly. In the alien command towers, Varen and Aina watched reports pile in. Delays in attacks, strange decisions by officers, reports of humans helping wounded aliens. These anomalies no longer felt accidental. Varen realized something he had never considered in his life. This war could not be won by force alone. Humans were teaching lessons without speaking, without fighting in the ways he expected. Each act of mercy, each act of survival, caused doubt, hesitation, and reflection among the alien forces. Varen called a private meeting with the High Council. He laid out the facts plainly. Humans are not defeated. They do not respond to fear, threat, or force as expected. They continue to survive and protect each other. Our fleets hesitate. Our soldiers question orders. This is not a temporary phenomenon. This is a permanent change in behavior we cannot counter with weapons alone. The council murmured. Some were angry, others confused.
Ina added quietly, "They do not win with fire. They win by staying human."
And in doing so, they have made victory meaningless for us. For the first time, the council faced a choice not about strategy, but about logic. How do you win against a species whose strength is quiet endurance and mercy? The answer was unclear. There were no rules, no measures, no calculations that could give a complete solution. Meanwhile, on human worlds, life continued. Colonists planted crops, repaired ships, and rebuilt cities. Children learned, laughed, and grew. Humans who had been captured returned home, telling simple stories of mercy, courage, and calmness that spread faster than any weapon could. Soldiers learned to fight only when necessary, to heal when possible, and to endure always. The war did not end with a battle, a surrender, or a treaty. It ended in the quiet realization that violence alone could not break humanity. Aaron was finally released from the alien cruiser. Lyra had argued quietly but firmly for his freedom. citing his actions as evidence of unexpected strength. The aliens released him, not with ceremony, but with an understanding that the war had shifted. Aaron returned to human space, weary but alive. He did not seek recognition. He only continued his work, healing, teaching, and reminding others that survival did not require hate. Mira's missions changed. Her fleet focused more on rescue and support, avoiding unnecessary destruction. Colonies thrived under Thomas's careful repairs and guidance. Kira's village became a model of peaceful recovery and quiet strength. Humans survived, not by overpowering enemies, but by enduring, helping, and healing. Alien forces, meanwhile, began to withdraw from many systems, not because of human attacks, but because the war had lost meaning. They could not conquer a species that refused to act like a conventional enemy. Officers questioned old assumptions, soldiers hesitated, and entire fleets stalled in uncertainty. Baron watched the final reports and realized the truth he could not deny. Humans had won, not through fire or fleets, but by remaining human. Their victory was quiet, invisible in traditional terms, yet undeniable.
Years later, the galaxy was different.
War did not vanish entirely, but the pace had slowed. Humans continued to live, rebuild, and protect.
Aliens had begun to negotiate quietly, cautiously, uncertain how to proceed when force no longer guaranteed results. Stories of healers, engineers, pilots, and simple villages spread across both human and alien worlds, carried by those who remembered mercy, patience, and calmness. On one quiet human world, Mira, Tomas, and Kira met briefly at a rebuilt spaceport. They did not speak of glory, battle, or victories. They spoke simply of life, of repairing machines, of planting seeds, of helping others, and of enduring. In their quiet words, they carried the truth of humanity. Survival and love mattered more than destruction. Aaron arrived shortly afterward. He looked at the others, weary but steady.
"We won," he said simply, "not because we destroyed them, but because we did not destroy ourselves." They smiled quietly, understanding fully what he meant. No fanfare, no speeches, no monuments, just life continuing. Human still human, the quiet victory complete. Above them stars shone in silence, fleets moved in careful patterns, some returning home, some exploring cautiously. But none could predict the slow, patient power of humanity. They had endured. They had healed. They had inspired doubt and reflection in a species that thought only in war. And in that endurance, in that quiet patience and care, humanity's victory was absolute. Not loud, not celebrated, not forced, but real, lasting, and unbreakable. The galaxy would remember, quietly. And that was enough.